Hello,
Good,
hello.
good,
Wonderful.
thank
Thank you so
you.
much, Jennifer.
So before we jump in, and Francis is very excited for this. Oh, thank you. Yes, I know you love. We got to do a little kiki with these three people before, so Francis is very excited to be back with you. Uh, hello, my dear. So let's start with a little round robin of just quick intros. Claire, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, more than happy to. Hi everyone. So lovely to be here with you all today. My name is Claire Cumming. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm a white female with shoulder length blonde hair, I would say. And today I'm wearing a blue and white polka dot top. Just in terms of my role at EG, so I've been with Expedia now for 6.5 years, where I still can't believe how quickly that time has gone. And I'm part of the global talent acquisition function based in London. And in terms of my day-to-day role, I currently lead a global team who recruit for our product and tech organizations. And we'll talk a lot about this shortly, but I'm also part of one of our employee resource groups called AIM, which stands for Ability. But thank you for having me today.
Happy to have you here. Jordan.
Hi, yes, my name is Jordan Precking. My pronouns are he, him, or él to get the Spanish. Originally from Iowa, but I'm based in Mexico City. I am an operation improvement analyst, so I help all the processes on the hotel side. But I also do a lot of, as you can imagine, inclusion and diversity things. Which is why I have my background here with the AIM blue background for the ability inclusion movement, like we all have. Oh yes, and I have a cool headset on and a purple t-shirt, and I am a mixed race guy. But yeah, so we'll talk more about what I do, but I'm kind of in all things IND and Expedia in a lot of different ways. And so happy to be here.
Thank you, Jordan. Very cool headset. And Emmy.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Emmy Wood LeClaire. I use the pronouns she, her, and hers, also they. I am a white female. I have long brown hair that is parted and pulled to the side. I am actually wearing a black Expedia Group shirt. You can't really see it, but there is a sparkly E, and it does make me happy because I love sparkles. I'm also wearing pink glasses as well. My background is our Expedia Group blue with AIM, Ability Inclusion Movement logo, as well as the Expedia Group logo and our brand. My day job, what I'm currently hired to do within Expedia Group, is to work with our Expedia for Business team in providing rates and inventory to travelers throughout the globe. I'm currently based in New York, and for ERGs, I'm really proud to say that I am the Global Development Chair for the Ability Inclusion Movement, and I have been with Expedia for over 7 years. I cannot believe that it's been that long, so it's been a wonderful ride.
Awesome. Congrats. And so happy to have you all here. Just so you're aware, Emmy, your microphone gets a little muffled at times. It was coming in and out. We could hear you perfectly, but it was still just a little muffled at times. Yeah. Okay, great. So let's jump in. We have about 25 minutes to power through. We're going to pack it as much as you can, as much as we can. So let's start with each of you. If you could talk a little bit about, I gave a little description of what an ERG is in the lead in here, but Claire, if you want to kick us off, maybe describing what an ERG is from your perspective, what that looks like at Expedia Group, and how you're a part of them. You mentioned a few that you're a part of.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Hunter. So I guess to put it, resource groups, or ERG for short. You may have also heard them be called other things like inclusion business groups, affinity groups, etc. But basically what they are, they're voluntary, employee-led normally, diversity and inclusion communities that are formally supported by an organisation. In terms of the way that they're normally typically organised, it's on the basis of common identities, interests or backgrounds. And what they're really there to do is to help organisations create safe spaces within the workplace where all types of diversity are welcomed and celebrated to build a sense of community and belonging amongst their employees. So Expedia Group, we actually have 8 employee resource groups. And like Emmy and Jordan, I have the pleasure of being part of our amazing ERG called AIM, which, as I mentioned, that stands for our Ability Inclusion Movement Group. So as part of AIM, our mission is to create an environment where every person, regardless of their disability status, is strong, safe, empowered, and heard. And we do this by removing barriers experienced by people with disabilities in our workplace, and really try what to do is foster a healthy, diverse, inclusive workforce. I think at the moment, correct me if I'm wrong, Emmy and Jordan, but I think we have about over 1,000 members as part of AIM. And just for me personally, I've had the absolute honour of recently joining the AIM Global Board, where I have a role as a Global Partnerships Chair. And the purpose of this role is to explore and build new partnerships internally and externally, to help us achieve our goals and mission as an ERG. Still very new as a board member. I've only been on the board for a couple of months, so still finding my feet, but absolutely loving it so far.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Jordan, would you like to share which groups you're a part of, your relationship to the ERGs?
Yeah, so in terms of AIM, I am the chapter lead for LATAM. We don't have so many people in LATAM relative to other places in the world. So we kind of work together with Sao Paulo, Cancun, and Mexico City are the biggest offices. And I just kind of make things happen, promote things, cascade things down, try a little bit of everything there. Try to get some things happening in Spanish or in Portuguese, because a lot of times in a global company, things come up and it's in English because we all have to know English. But, for topics that are a little more difficult, like that might be happening in AIM, it might be better to talk in your first language. So that's kind of what I try to do as the chapter lead for LATAM. But I'm also a member of the Pride IBG, and also of the Beam one, which is the Black Expedian experience. And then, yeah, I think that the ERGs, or as we call them, the IBGs, for me, it's just nice to have some place to go to as an employee to find your people, even if you're not super participative, but, you'll see somebody's name in an IBG, in the channel, and whatever, talking, and things come up. And maybe sometime down the line, you need to ask for help about something. And, oh, okay, I'm going to feel a little bit more comfortable with this person because I know they're in my same IBG. So in terms of like everything that Claire was saying, yes, 100%. But so the only thing I would add there is just it, from an employee, an individual contributor, employee perspective, it's just nice to have this extra space to kind of step back from your, day to day.
Awesome. And Emmy.
Let me know if the audio goes out again. Hopefully I was able to repair it. So I'm the Global Development Chair with AIM, and because that does take a lot of time, I really focus a lot of my efforts on AIM. But in terms of intersectionality, I'm able to be a part of our Women in Leadership group and also our Vets group. My father was a vet. In terms of what I do as a Global Development Chair, I really focus on creating a better career experience for Expedians, especially people with disabilities. So for example, over the past year and a half, I have been working with the other IBG Global Development Chairs as a collective to create an Own Your Dreams program, which has been centered on a volunteer basis. It is for Expedians by Expedians, but it focuses on skill development that are needed for our URIs to be able to advance their career within Expedia Group and also outside of Expedia Group. In addition to that, we are actually in the process of trying a new pilot where we are going to do an ADHD peer coaching program, so that way we can also involve better career opportunities through peer coaching for our neurodivergent people.
Fantastic. So great. And as you can probably see, the chat is already lighting up with questions. So people are very engaged, a lot of questions. We're going to try to get to as many of them as we can in our brief time together. I'd love to hear about, and some people started chiming in about this already in the chat. How can we all encourage engagement with an ERG, and what role can reward and recognition play in that? And can maybe zoom out a little bit and tell me a little bit about a high level description of like, what do I mean by when I say reward and recognition? Claire, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you. I think the first thing to say is there's like lots of different ways to engage with an ERG within an organisation. Certainly at EG, we encourage all of our employees to participate, should they wish to, in our employee resource groups, either as a member or as an ally. So I think the most important thing to say is that anyone can join an employee resource group to ensure that we are fully inclusive. So in the case of our ERG AIM that we've been speaking about, you don't necessarily have to have a disability yourself, but you might have your own personal reasons, through lived experiences or family or loved ones. And therefore we want to, build a more inclusive world for people with disabilities as a true ally as well. Just in terms of how people can engage, as I said, you can easily join as a member to an ERG, where you join the wider community and you can get involved in lots of different ways. You can also get involved as a local chapter, in the case of Jordan, as he's done. Or you can join the board like Emmy and I. So as I said, there's lots of different ways that you can do that. From a reward and recognition standpoint, I'll defer to Emmy and Jordan. But one thing I do want to just mention is in terms of how we reward people at EG, what I would say is it doesn't necessarily have to be just a monetary reward. So just to give you an example of how we do this at EG, I think it was a month or so back, all ERG leaders had the chance to attend an ERG leader summit in London. It's the first time we've ever done this, but people had the opportunity to travel from all around the world to be together. And what I would just say is, it allowed us to collaborate as one ERG collective. So that in itself was extremely rewarding. But yeah, I'll hand it over to Emmy and Jordan to add other ways.
Yeah, Emmy, would you like to kick us off?
Absolutely. Okay, hopefully moving my hair will hopefully help. If not, I do have wired headphones as backup, so continue to keep me posted on the audio issue.
Yeah, it's a little muffled still.
Oh, goodness. Okay, why don't we actually head to Jordan? I'm going to head over to
let's do that. Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So in terms of participating, I think the biggest thing is that a lot of people feel like it's a huge undertaking to participate in any kind of ERG, and really you can just join and watch and sit there and attend the thing, attend the meeting, attend the, whatever. And then as you get more comfortable, do more, become a local chapter person, run for a global chair, whatever the structure is in your company. But I think we just need to get over that initial, oh no, it's going to require a lot of time, I'm working, I'm busy, and that's like a big part of it. Once people are there, they see that, oh, okay, everyone's nice and this is cool and this is easy. So I think that that's a big portion of it. In terms of the rewards and recognition, Expedia does occasionally give out money, and its money isn't everything, but it is something, and a lot of people definitely appreciate it. And then there's a lot of places that have, for example, I come from an operations background, and operations, everything is super measured, and the KPIs and times and all of the things. And so how can I participate and whatever? And so like one reward that I used to have back in the day was something like I could have an extended break for whatever, or I can leave early this day or whatever, which isn't the biggest thing in the world, but it's a nice thing that other people don't get and I do get because of, my thing. So I'll take it. So there really are there are a lot of little things and big things that can happen. We have the benefit here of Expedia being a travel company. And so I've gotten a travel award before, in meaning that's, free money to do something with, a hotel or travel or whatever. Not every place is Expedia, but, do something similar with your own products and services that you have in your company. And I think people will also like that, because a lot of people who work at a company are fans of, that company. So that's what I have to say about that.
I love that. And I'd love to touch on one of these questions in the chat, because you started to mention some of the anxiety that might be involved in coming into it. And Connor asked, kind of zooming out a little bit, having been part of ERGs in the past, how do you deal with anxiety of others you work with finding out and stigmatizing maybe that we're in an ERG?
Yeah, I saw that actually. I mean, it can be a big thing. Depends on the ERG, right? So if you're in the Black Expedia and whatever, people are like, okay, Black is fine, or it's a very normal thing. But if you're in something like AIM, ability inclusion movement, okay, what's happening there? Is that person gonna have, and so I definitely get that. But there is a lot of emphasis on, at least in Expedia, just because you're in an IBG doesn't mean that you are whatever. There are non-gay people in the Pride one. There are non-Black people in the Black, because we want allies. We want everyone to know. In this one, a lot of times there are caretakers in AIM, for example, who don't have a disability themselves, but need to know more about some issues. So just because you are a part of the ERG doesn't mean that you have, I don't know, disability, belong to whatever. It's just because you're interested in it. So you can spin it that way. And eventually, if people were to find out and that were to cause some kind of a problem, hopefully your company has some kind of like retaliation measure in place so that you can go to HR and you can do, if it were to become a bigger thing than that. But if you're talking about just it being stigmatizing, that's the work that the ERGs are trying to do, right? That's the goal, is to, okay, well, look, Jordan is in this thing and, he is autistic and it's fine. Like, like nothing happens. And now they know somebody who is autistic and life goes on. So yeah, it's a little scary, just like any kind of coming out, if you do belong to some kind of, identity that you're not super out about. But hopefully, long term, that's the goal, to break down the barriers and change people's perceptions.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Jordan. That's wonderful. And thank you, Connor, for asking that question. Let's, because we only have about 10 minutes left, believe it or not. Let's talk about how, some of you mentioned you're in a couple ERGs, you're really active. How do you balance that between your day jobs, and how do you mitigate, burnout from all of this? Emmy, would you like to, let's check in on your mic and let's see how you have to say.
Are we doing much?
One more time.
How about now? Is that better?
There we go. Yeah, now I can hear you.
All right. Awesome. We're going to hold it just like this. Burnout is a real conversation that I know many people have had, both within ERGs and outside of our ERGs. And I think one of the biggest struggles whenever you are participating with ERGs is that a lot of the DEIB work takes a long time. So you're not able to see immediate results. And so you really have to stay motivated with a lot of these different initiatives to get things done at the end of the day. Depending on your company, you will have maybe anywhere from 10 to 20% of your time that is allowed to be allocated to your work with ERGs. But we all know that it's much, much more than that. And a lot of times, the time spent in addition to that 10 or 20% is on your own time. It's outside work hours, so you can continue to do your job. And that is something that I've personally struggled with. And one of the things that I always challenge myself and others with is to always ask for help. We're always asking for members to engage and for people to engage in ERGs, but we also have to create opportunities for them to be able to engage. So by making very clear opportunities,
I think we lost you audio-wise. Cliffhanger too. You're just really getting into it at that moment. No, I can't hear you. I'm gonna pitch to another person. We'll jump you back in, okay? Okay. Okay, friends. Thank you for rolling with the punches, going with the flow. This is what happens, technology. It happens. Okay, so let's, because we have less than 10 minutes left, and we can circle back to you, Emmy, when your mic gets working. Let's talk about how ERGs can lead by example and demonstrate to the larger organizations to integrate DE&I and B into every job, every day. Claire, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Yeah, I think personally, I see that ERGs really set the standard for an I&D culture within a company. And obviously we have almost a responsibility to make sure that we are actually setting the right standard as well. So the work that ERGs do really does help to drive best practices throughout the organisation that all employees and leaders get to see, regardless if they're if they're part of an ERG or not. Certainly at EG, our ERGs and their members often show vulnerability and encourage open dialogue across the organisation. And this level of visibility is what really helps us build the inclusive culture that we have as a company, I would say.
Awesome. Thank you, Claire. Jordan, would you like to touch on this?
Yeah, I mean, best practices, it's something like, for example, with AIM, because of AIM related things, there's a lot, the Expedia website is more accessible for everyone. People who, are overstimulated, people who are, need more different accessibility, like screen readers and all of these things that a lot of times aren't taken, for granted. And so because of, different movements like that, things happen at like bigger picture, so it's not just about, being vulnerable, yes, conversation, yes, building those soft skills, all of that is 100% good. But depending on your organization, there can be some very real, like physical changes that are beneficial for a lot of people. Another example of something is like there's a lot of different terminology that is maybe a little bit a kind of racist background. There was like, we got rid of the room, like master room, like that's, gone now. Blacklist, we try to not use that internally, like all of these things, and it's just little things, and it's whatever, but it's a change, and it happens because of movements coming from these different ERGs. So yeah, soft skills goes without saying, but there can be very real, monetary benefits to the company based off of what is happening in these ERGs.
Yeah, thank you for that. I love that you highlighted those two examples of just words and phrases just caked in with systemic racism that, people don't even maybe not be aware of it when they're saying it, but someone receiving it that could make them very uncomfortable. And it's just a reminder of, that there are little ways and big ways that we can improve internally and externally in our groups, in our communities. And this is where we can learn these things and talk about these things without feeling like it's inappropriate. If we have the right framework and language in a safe space where these things can be shared. And it's so important, the ERGs, and it's so great to hear what y'all are doing over there in these different ways. Okay, believe it or not, 5 minutes left. So can we talk about how ERGs can best understand the needs of the given community that's involved? Emmy, let's check your mic. Let's see how we doing.
It keeps cutting in and out. So I don't know if maybe I'm having a service issue, it might be internet issue, I'm not sure. So let me know if I drop again. I think, I'm so sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Of course, I know you're juggling, like the mic's not working. How ERGs can best understand the needs of the community?
I think first and foremost is to ask, making sure that you are creating opportunities for people to share what they need in a very safe space. And in order to do so, you want to create psychological safety. So having a way that they can anonymously provide feedback, allow space for them to meet with either chapter leads or the board one-on-one. It really comes down to also being vulnerable yourself first, obviously, like today, asking you to repeat a question. So that really comes from almost leading by example.
I love that. And to paraphrase Brene Brown, vulnerability is an act of bravery. Like it's a courageous act, I believe, is her words, which is much juicier. Okay, with just a couple minutes left, so let's are there any other key takeaways from this conversation that y'all hope that people can take back to their own companies, to their own ERGs? Any advice if they're starting one, launching one, joining one? Jordan, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, I definitely have one that's like not so. I'm based in LATAM. I'm in Mexico City, and as an international company, like I said, LATAM is not the biggest area, right? So there's been a lot of focus on Europe and on the US, and some other times it's been difficult because we feel like we don't matter so much here in LATAM in Asia. But what happens is people start, raising their voice, and getting things known. And I've seen this trajectory just in my 5.5 years here that like we are now, a force and people are taking us more into consideration. And so all of this is to say that if you're going to do anything with ERG, you need to have like equal, I mean, obviously you need to be inclusive, right? You need to include internationally or all the groups or everything that you can be it. You need to be as inclusive as possible is what I'm saying. So yeah, and if it feels like it's difficult to get feedback from everyone or from all the parts, just know that, yeah, like Emmy was saying, it's a long road, but I have seen it and it happens. And I feel great about the direction we're going in here at EG in terms of that issue. So yes, make everything as inclusive as possible, which sounds obvious, but sometimes it gets left out.
It's so important. Claire.
Yeah, no, thank you. I guess key takeaways for me, I just really encourage everyone to explore what employee resource groups potentially exist within their own companies and really consider joining. For me personally, being part of our AIM ERG, sorry, more than anything, it's also allowed me to develop my own network and grow my career professionally. But it's also given me that sense of belonging within the organisation at work. So can't recommend it enough. The only other thing to say is if your organisation doesn't have an employee resource groups, which may be the case as so many companies are just at the beginning of this journey, just a couple of, well, 3 tips. First, I would say leadership buy-in. Whilst it's not mandatory to have buy-in from senior leaders, it can certainly help with the implementation. And then also start small. You can't expect to launch a huge IBG right at the beginning. You need to grow it from grassroots. And then finally, also just assess your own company needs and ensure that you're aligning your goals as an IBG or ERG with the overall company goals as well. So just some tips if you're starting.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Claire. And Emmy, any key takeaways?
Yeah, hopefully you can still hear me okay. I think really the big thing too is to lead by example. Things come from the top down when it comes from a company. So the more leaders that are involved with ERGs and supporting ERGs, the more interaction you're going to have. So lead by example.
Awesome. Short and sweet. I love it. And powerful words. Jordan, Emmy, Claire, this has been such a delight to talk to all of you. Thank you for sharing your insights, being vulnerable. We worked through things together as a team. We did all the things today, friends. So thank you all. I loved this conversation. Please come back. Let's do more of this. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.